Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast, Is It Worth It?
Yeah, glad to be here for this one.
Before we jump in, just a quick reminder. If you're planning a trip and want the honest, is it worth it verdict before you book, follow the show on Spotify or Apple.
Absolutely.
Because today we're doing a deep dive into Jingdezhen. This is China's 1,000-year-old porcelain capital down in Jiangxi province. And I mean, usually when we talk about a heritage city with that kind of history, there's this immediate expectation of a snow globe experience.
Oh, for sure.
You imagine stepping off a train and instantly finding yourself on some pristine cobblestone street, surrounded by ancient stone walls, every little shop perfectly preserved, glowing with lantern light, like a living museum exhibit.
Right, it's that classic European old town fantasy.
Yeah.
That model is, well, it's entirely contained, it's pedestrian friendly, and probably most importantly, it's designed from the ground up to cater directly to the international tourist's gaze.
Yeah, it's comforting.
It is, because all the friction has just been sanded down. You don't really have to think too hard to exist in that space.
Exactly. It's ready for your camera. But then you look at the source material we have today, and we have a massive stack of travel auditing notes, localized pricing briefs, and on-the-ground logistical breakdowns. And when you step into the reality of a place like Jingdezhen, that pristine snow globe just absolutely shatters on the floor.
It really does. It defies all those quaint expectations.
It's quite jarring if you aren't prepared for it. So our mission today for you, the listener, is simple. If you're considering a trip to East Asia in 2026 or 2027, should Jingdezhen be on your itinerary? Or is the friction of getting there and staying there just, not worth the hype?
That is a vital question right now.
Yeah.
Specifically for this upcoming 2026 and 2027 window, because the entire calculus of visiting this specific city has just shifted in a way we haven't seen in decades.
Yes. The catalyst for this whole deep dive, we're looking at a rare infrastructural alignment here. First, there's a brand new high-speed rail line, making it a mere 42-minute hop from Nanchang.
Right, which is huge.
And second, and this is the absolute game changer, it is now one of only 2 Jiangxi cities inside China's 240-hour visa-free transit window, assuming you fly into Nanchang Changbei Airport.
We really need to pause on that visa-free window because it fundamentally alters how you plan a trip. Historically, getting a Chinese tourist visa was a significant barrier.
Yeah.
You had to book flights, hotels, fill out extensive paperwork, pay hefty consular fees.
And wait around for weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this transit policy changes the paradigm. If you're flying, say, from the U.S. to Japan or Europe to South Korea, and you route your flight through Nanchang, you get up to 10 full days in the province without ever visiting an embassy. You could literally just drop in on a whim.
As long as you have that onward ticket to a third country.
Right.
Sounds incredibly liberating. But, and this is a massive but staring at me from these auditing notes, just because you can drop in easily doesn't mean you should just show up blind, because this destination is a wild mix of extremes.
Oh, completely.
The ground costs are staggeringly low. Like a backpacker can survive on $50 to $70 a day for everything.
Yeah.
But the local economy is basically littered with hidden money pits, language barriers, and logistical traps that will just drain your wallet if you aren't paying attention.
Jingdezhen requires an entirely different set of travel muscles. You've got this ancient imperial history colliding head-on with high-speed modern infrastructure. And this rapid caffeine-fueled gentrification driven by domestic youth. To actually extract the magic of the city without tearing your hair out, you have to be highly prepared digitally before your plane even touches the tarmac.
So let's start breaking down these illusions. The biggest one right out of the gate, looking at the urban development sources, is that anyone calling Jingdezhen a walkable hidden gem is basically a decade out of date.
It's at least a decade, yeah.
It explicitly says it's a rapidly commercializing, massively spread out industrial craft town.
That framing is the most honest piece of advice a prospective traveler can get. The phrase hidden gem does an incredible amount of heavy, misleading lifting in modern travel media.
Yeah, it implies quaintness, undiscovered quiet.
Exactly. And Jingdezhen is none of those things anymore. It's a booming metropolis of over 1 million people. Its core identity is industrial manufacturing, not boutique hospitality.
But wait, let me push back on that a bit, because if we connect this to the high-speed rail you mentioned, it feels kind of contradictory. I mean, if it's on this state-of-the-art rail network, only 42 minutes from Nanchang with 41 trains a day, isn't that basically like hopping on a smooth commuter train to a suburb?
You think so, sure.
The pricing brief says standard tickets are only $7 to $12. Even premium business class caps out at $48. So the journey sounds effortless. Why are the sources insisting it's logistically awkward?
Well, you're falling into a common analytical trap there. You're confusing the ease of access with the quality of the on-the-ground experience.
Okay, fair.
The friction isn't the journey there. The high-speed rail in China is a marvel of modern engineering. It's sleek, punctual, heavily subsidized. Getting to the station in Jingdezhen is frictionless. The friction begins the second you walk out of the station doors and try to interface with the actual city layout.
So the bullet train is the easy part, but stepping out into the city is where the mirage just evaporates.
Exactly. Let's go back to your snow globe analogy. The reason Jingdezhen is not a compact heritage town is tied to its historical function. For centuries, this wasn't a town designed for leisure. It was designed to build massive roaring fires.
Right, the kilns.
Right, you needed immense kilns, which required space so the city wouldn't burn down. You needed river access to ship the fragile porcelain. You needed mountain access for kale and clay and timber. Because of that industrial necessity, the city grew outward in fractured pockets, not in a tight urban core.
That makes total sense when you look at the map. Let me just list out the major attractions for you, the listener, because the geographic spread is wild.
Yeah.
You have the Toxitlan Creative District, which is this massive revamped factory area. Then the Sculpture Porcelain Factory, which is a totally separate zone.
Yep.
Then the Imperial Kiln Site, smack in the middle of downtown. And finally, Sanbo Village, which is tucked way out into a valley in the surrounding hills.
And the crucial takeaway here is that you absolutely cannot walk between these zones. It is a physical impossibility for a casual tourist day.
You're not strolling down a cobblestone lane from the kiln to the village.
No, you're navigating wide, multi-lane urban boulevards, dealing with heavy traffic, moving through a sprawling industrial center just to get from one pocket of culture to the next.
So practically speaking, what does this mean for a traveler trying to squeeze this in? Say they've got their 240-hour visa, they think, I'll just pop in for an afternoon to buy a teapot and see a museum.
That scenario leads us to the most important piece of due diligence we can offer right off the top, the 24-hour rule.
The 24-hour rule?
Yeah, if you only have 24 hours to spare and no deep-seated genuine interest in ceramics, you must skip it entirely.
Just take a red pen and cross it off the itinerary. That seems harsh for a place with 1,000 years of history.
It's entirely necessary, though. A rushed half-day here offers terrible return on your time investment. Because the infrastructure is so scattered, you'll spend half your time just in transit, sitting in taxis, fighting the sprawl.
Not actually soaking in the culture.
Exactly. If you only have one spare day, reallocate those hours. Go to a nearby natural wonder like Huangshan, which is much better for a shorter, visually stunning visit. Jingdezhen demands your time to absorb it.
I appreciate that brutal honesty. You really can't just swipe through it like an Instagram story. So let's say you do commit. You allocate 3 full days. The next biggest mistake you can make, according to the notes, is choosing the wrong month to go.
Oh, absolutely. The climate here is not something you can just ignore with a light jacket.
We need to talk about the meteorological realities of Jiangxi province. It's got some fierce moods.
But understanding the weather is only half the battle. To really plan a trip, you have to understand the domestic tourism calendar in China. The weather and the national holidays dictate everything from your hotel price to how long you wait for noodles.
Let's start with the good news. When is the golden window?
The absolute sweet spot is autumn, late September through November. The daytime highs settle into a really comfortable 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit.
Phenomenal walking around weather. Not sweating, not shivering.
And the oppressive humidity of the river valley finally breaks. The air gets crisp. But beyond comfort, October is when the cultural scene genuinely peaks. The city hosts its major international ceramic biennials and autumn fairs.
Right.
The artists bring out their best work. The evening markets are at max capacity. The energy is just incredibly vibrant.
Okay, that sounds like a dream. If the weather is 75 degrees and the fairs are running, my instinct is to just look at my calendar and book the very first week of October. Just lock it in.
If you do that, you'll be walking blindly into the single biggest crowd and price trap of the entire calendar year.
Okay, I clearly tripped a wire. What is happening in the first week of October?
It's China's National Day Golden Week, a nationwide, multi-day public holiday. And to grasp the scale of it, you have to understand how domestic tourism functions for 1.4 billion people. Jingdezhen isn't a coastal cruise port.
Right, you don't have thousands of people dumping off a mega ship at 9 a.m. and leaving by 5 p.m.
Completely different logistics. The crowd dynamics are driven exclusively by the high-speed rail network and domestic holidays. During Golden Week, a massive portion of the population is on the move simultaneously. People in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, they all take their one major domestic vacation.
So what does that actually look like on the ground for someone's wallet?
It temporarily warps the local economy. A comfortable mid-range hotel that's normally $50 to $70 on a Tuesday in November will suddenly spike to $90 to $120 minimum.
Your baseline costs practically double overnight.
They double, and availability vanishes. And those high-speed train tickets, they might technically be cheap since state rail prices are controlled, but they will completely sell out days or weeks in advance.
Wow.
If you plan to use that visa-free transit and just buy a ticket at the station during Golden Week, you'll be stranded in Nanchang. And those vibrant evening markets, they become physically gridlocked, genuinely shoulder-to-shoulder, shuffle-step crowded.
The charm just evaporates under the density of human bodies. Okay, so first week of October is a blaring red flag. Don't go near it. But what if a listener can't make autumn work at all? What's the secondary option?
The backup option is spring, roughly March through May. The surrounding mountains are green, temperatures are pleasant, it's decent for walking.
I feel a butt hovering in the air.
The caveat is the rain. It is persistently wet. You cannot plan a spring itinerary assuming you'll be outside every day. You have to actively build indoor contingency plans, like museums or covered markets. You will likely get washed out by a heavy downpour at least once.
Got it. Spring requires an umbrella and a backup plan. What about summer? Lots of families and students only have July or August.
The local guides explicitly label June through August as the hardest, most punishing season. It's the plum rain season. Not a brief shower, but prolonged, deep wetness with suffocating humidity. Pair that with daily highs routinely sitting around 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
That sounds physically exhausting. Navigating a spread-out city, waiting on a boulevard for a taxi, wandering ancient kilns in 95-degree heat and 100% humidity. You'd be wiped out by noon.
It drains your energy incredibly fast. You have to slow your pace way down.
Yeah.
And then swinging to the opposite end, winter, December through February, is a different challenge. It's not blizzard snow, but it's a damp, penetrating chill that gets into your bones.
Yeah.
And a crucial detail for Western travelers. Buildings in southern China rarely have robust central heating.
I've experienced this. The thermometer says 45 degrees outside, but somehow it feels colder inside the hotel lobby than on the street.
The architecture is designed to stay cool in brutal summers, not trap heat in winter. So sitting in a drafty artist studio watching a master throw porcelain for 3 hours in January, you're going to be deeply chilly. You need thermal layers and a hotel room with a very strong split-unit heater.
So the climate dictates the terms of your engagement. It sounds like mid to late October, right after Golden Week clears out, is the holy grail of scheduling.
Absolutely.
But I want to linger on domestic tourism for a second. The sources mention this fascinating socioeconomic shift happening in Jingdezhen. The influx of domestic tourists is completely reshaping the local economy.
It's a real-time transformation. The data shows it shifting away from purely industrial manufacturing into a highly sought-after weekend magnet destination.
Yeah.
And it's drawing a specific demographic: young Chinese artists, students, digital nomads, the creative class. They have a term for them: Jingpiao, or Jingdezhen drifters.
So it's almost like the Brooklyn or Portland of Jiangxi province, a place where urbanites go to escape the corporate grind.
Highly accurate comparison. Young people face intense pressure in Tier 1 cities like Beijing. They look to Jingdezhen, where rent is cheap, high-speed rail keeps them connected, and culture revolves around artisanal creation.
Right.
You see this vividly around the Daxichuan Ceramic Art Avenue. On Friday and Saturday nights, it erupts with life. Hundreds of independent makers setting up stalls. It's a fantastic atmosphere, but it means the city toggles wildly between a quiet working town on Tuesday and a booming cultural hub on Saturday.
It's incredible how that 42-minute rail connection just conjured a new weekend demographic out of thin air.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to logistics. You picked your dates, dodged Golden Week in the plum rains. You arrive on a crisp Tuesday in late October. Now you have to survive the arrival.
Yes.
The sources call this the digital wall.
This is where intense preparation separates a seamless trip from a logistical nightmare.
Let's paint the picture. You arrive at Jingdezhen North Railway Station, vast, modern, spotlessly clean, but geographically outside the dense core of the city.
Correct. Your immediate need is a transfer. You have to bridge the gap to your hotel.
Looking at transit data, you have options. A metered taxi rank for $4 to $8. Public buses for 30 cents, and Didi, which is basically China's Uber.
Now, a $4 taxi ride sounds easy, but here is where friction violently hits the unprepared traveler. The English signage at this station and English-speaking staff are incredibly thin.
Nothing like Beijing or Shanghai.
Not at all.
I always compare this to trying to pilot a state-of-the-art spaceship, but you don't have the manual and the buttons aren't in your language. It's
Yeah.
orderly, safe, efficient, but you're completely locked out of the system.
That feeling is exactly the digital wall. The barrier isn't physical safety or lack of transport, it's entirely digital and linguistic. If you try to just wing it, tap on a taxi glass and hand the driver a paper with your hotel's English name, you'll hit a wall of mutual confusion.
They can't read the Latin alphabet and you can't pronounce the Chinese street name.
Exactly.
So how does a traveler hack the spaceship? What are the specific steps to bypass this wall?
The manual is a strict checklist you must complete before you leave your home country. First, install the Didi app. Second, you must have a working Chinese eSIM or an ironclad roaming data plan active the moment you land.
You can't just rely on station Wi-Fi.
Absolutely not. Public Wi-Fi often requires a Chinese phone number to receive an SMS verification code. No data means you are paralyzed.
Wow, okay.
Third, you need offline translation tools like Baidu or Apple Translate downloaded to your device. And fourth, you must have your hotel's name and exact street address saved as text in simplified Chinese characters on your phone, ready to copy and paste.
Because with data and Didi linked to your credit card, you literally don't even need to speak to anyone to get to your hotel.
Precisely. You open the app, paste your destination in Chinese, the GPS locates you, the algorithm translates everything, a driver accepts, picks you up, the route is predetermined on their screen, and payment is handled automatically. The language barrier is bypassed.
The software is the intermediary. And it's so important to tell the listener why. This lack of English isn't a bug or a failure of hospitality. It's a feature of a city serving a billion-person domestic market. They don't need English signage.
Right.
If you utilize their digital tools, the friction vanishes. You get a $5 ride to your lobby with zero stress.
But if you stubbornly skip preparation, thinking you can charm your way through with hand gestures, it will be the most anxiety-inducing hour of your vacation. You'll be standing outside a massive station, unable to communicate, and that visa-free window will feel like a trap.
Okay, assuming the listener heeded our warnings, you navigated the digital wall, hopped in a quiet electric Didi, and you're pulling up to your accommodation. Where are you sleeping, and what does it cost? The pricing briefs show a remarkably wide spread for different traveler archetypes.
It does. Let's break down where they sleep and what they spend day to day. Let's start with the backpacker, the solo traveler wanting to maximize that 10-day window.
That's the budget there.
Astonishingly low, around $45 to $70 a day total. They'll want to base themselves in the creative energy near Toxichuan or the sculpture porcelain factory.
Because things are so spread out, staying there puts you in walking distance to the evening markets and street food.
Exactly. You're looking at youth hostels, small guest houses, artist-run homestays. A bed in a dorm, or a very basic private room, runs $11 to $28 a night.
Wow. But there's a trade-off, right? You aren't getting luxury for $15.
The trade-off is thin amenities. Hard mattresses, which is a cultural norm anyway, maybe a wet room where the shower isn't separated from the toilet. And English capabilities at the front desk will be non-existent. You'll use translation apps. But for a budget traveler prioritizing atmosphere, it's great.
Okay, what about the mid-range couple? They want a clean, private space, but aren't burning savings.
Daily budget jumps to $95 to $150 a day per person. They'll want a modern boutique hotel or reliable domestic business hotel. You find clusters of these around Toxichuan or downtown. Pricing is roughly $45 to $75 a night.
Under $80 a night for a modern boutique hotel is a steal right now.
It's excellent value, usually with a reliable Chinese-style buffet breakfast included. The trade-off here is location versus character. Downtown business hotels are convenient for taxis and museums, but the neighborhood feels like generic concrete and glass. A boutique hotel inside Toxichuan is charming, but books up months in advance for autumn weekends.
Basic supply and demand. Now, what about families? Kids change the whole equation.
They alter everything. A family of four is looking at $180 to $300 a day combined. They can't rely on quirky guest houses with steep stairs. They need higher-end, mid-range downtown hotels or larger chains.
They need elevators for strollers, on-site dining for when kids hit a wall, and immediate taxi access.
Exactly. A spacious family room runs $60 to $95 a night. But the structural trade-off is that by staying downtown, you are committing to daily, multi-stop taxi rides to see the cultural sites. You have to load the kids into a Didi every time.
We'll dissect that taxi trap in a minute. But first, the luxury traveler. The briefs say the daily budget is $250 to $450, and room rates for top-tier local hotels cap out at $110 to $180 a night. Now, I have to push back on this. The absolute ceiling for a luxury room is $180. That sounds like a total misprint. For $180, you can barely get a roadside motel in some cities. That sounds like a steal for a five-star experience.
This reaction is a very common misunderstanding. We have to calibrate our definition of what luxury means in this specific geographic context.
Yeah.
You have to understand the luxury ceiling in inland Chinese cities.
Okay, unpack that. Why doesn't $180 buy what I think it buys?
Because a $180 hotel in Jingdezhen is in reality a very, very good local four-star property.
Ah, I see.
It'll have beautiful interior design, custom porcelain in the lobby, spacious rooms, but it is not an international five-star flagship.
It's not operating on the same software as a Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton.
Exactly. The physical hardware is stunning, but the service software is different. You won't get hyper-attentive, multilingual concierge service arranging complex private tours in flawless English. You won't have a cloud-like Western mattress. It'll be firm. No 3 fine dining restaurants in the lobby. The service is polite and functional, but not engineered for global standard frictionless pampering.
So if a listener exclusively books five-star flagships and expects the hotel to be a linguistic shield, what's your advice?
Manage expectations heavily. If you demand that level of frictionless luxury, Jingdezhen will frustrate you. The infrastructure isn't built to coddle you that way. Pair the trip with Shanghai. Get your pampering there. Then treat Jingdezhen as a slightly more rugged, culturally intense excursion.
Phenomenal strategy. And just to round out the archetypes, digital nomads are looking at $900 to $1,700 a month. Monthly apartments run $300 to $650, very economically viable.
Highly.
So while accommodation requires managed expectations on the luxury end, one thing universally praised is the food scene. Incredible value, deep flavor profiles. Let's dive into fueling the journey.
The culinary foundation is Jiangxi cooking, also known as Gan cuisine.
What does that actually taste like for people who only know Cantonese or Sichuan?
Unapologetically bold. Fresh chili peppers, garlic, fermented black beans, preserved vegetables. Spicy, savory, and fundamentally rice-based. It's meant to fuel laborers and craftsmen, and crucially, it's overwhelmingly cheap.
Yeah.
Focus on food stalls in Sichuan, alleyways near the sculpture factory, unassuming noodle shops downtown.
Let's pull some numbers. A bowl of signature cold rice noodles with chili and peanuts. Roughly $1.10 to $1.70.
Practically free. Dense calories for pocket change.
Sika, the dumpling cake snack. $1.50 to $2.50. Beef bone noodle soup. $2 to $4. A full local dinner for one, $5 to $9. And local beer is under $1. The baseline cost of sustenance is incredibly low.
It really is.
But then, scanning the notes, a specialty coffee like a flat white inside the creative districts runs $3.50 to $5.50. That is a massive, jarring price gap. Brooklyn coffee prices next to a dollar slice pizza joint. How does a single cup of coffee cost 3 times as much as a bowl of noodles that takes hours to prepare?
It's the most fascinating socio-economic indicator in the city. It perfectly illustrates the dual economy. It ties back to the Jingpiao drifters and the changing demographics.
The influx of the creative class.
Precisely. The $1.50 noodles serve the working class foundation, priced for locals and older generations. The $5.50 pour-over coffee is engineered specifically for the affluent urbanites and art students who gentrified Sichuan.
It's the physical manifestation of gentrification in a paper cup.
It really is.
Yes.
You aren't just paying for beans. They're selling an aesthetic package. High-speed Wi-Fi, minimalist workspace, air conditioning, a lifestyle appealing to a domestic tourist from Shanghai. So you can toggle between 2 economic realities just by crossing the street.
Fascinating. Now, ground rules for etiquette and payment. You can't just slap a $20 bill on the table.
Absolutely not. First, tipping is not customary anywhere in mainland China. Not in restaurants, taxis, or hotels. Attempting to force a tip can cause genuine confusion or mild offense. The price on the menu is the final price.
And physical cash is basically a relic, right?
Merely a fallback, and one that small vendors actively dislike. They might not have small change to break a 100 RMB note for a 10 RMB bowl of noodles. The microeconomy runs almost exclusively on mobile payment networks.
Alipay and WeChat Pay.
Exactly. The QR code is the universal currency. And the most critical update for 2026-2027 is that both platforms finally integrated with international financial networks. You can link your foreign Visa or MasterCard.
But you must do it before you leave home.
Yes, you have to go through identity verification in your home country. Once set up, you just scan a QR code taped to a cart to pay for your $1.10 noodles. It's seamless. If you haven't configured it, it's deeply paralyzing.
And one vital logistical note on food. Vegetarians need to be highly prepared.
Yes. Jiangxi cooking relies heavily on animal fats and stocks. Pork fat is frequently used to stir-fry vegetables for a richer mouthfeel. Meat stock is used as a base for sauces.
So a seemingly innocent bowl of leafy greens arrives glistening in pork fat.
Very likely. You can't just say no meat in English. You must have a digital translation card saved on your phone specifying no meat broth, no pork fat, no hidden seafood paste in Chinese characters.
Okay, so food is cheap if you skip the boutique coffees and have WeChat Pay ready. But a listener's budget can still get blown out of the water by 3 specific logistics traps hidden in the city's design.
What makes them dangerous is they catch first-time visitors off guard because they aren't obvious on a map.
Let's unpack Trap 1, the spread-out city taxi trap.
Standard guidebook advice is usually walk within districts, ride between them.
Sounds reasonable.
Until you experience the physical reality. The headline attractions are violently scattered. Toxicena in the east, Sculpture Factory south, Imperial Kiln downtown, Ancient Kiln west, Sanbao Village miles away in a valley.
Let me role-play a tourist day. Wake up downtown. Ride number 1 to Imperial Kiln. Morning there. Ride number 2 for lunch near the Sculpture Factory. Ride number 3 out to Sanbao Village for artisans. Ride number 4 back to Toxicena for night markets. Ride number 5 back to the hotel.
Exactly. 4 to 7 distinct taxi hops every single day.
Individually, $4-6 feels like nothing.
But aggregate math. 5 rides at $6 is $30 a day in pure transport. Over 3 days, nearly $100 in unbudgeted taxi fares. And for families needing larger vehicles, it scales higher. It quietly eats your budget.
So how do we patch the leak?
Geographic discipline. Look at a map and cluster sightseeing by zone. Don't bounce like a pinball. Dedicate 1 day to the eastern side Toxicena and Sculpture Factory. A separate day for downtown and the Imperial Kiln.
And the notes suggest a brutal tip. If short on time, skip Sanbao Village entirely.
Yes, Sanbao is idyllic, but it's the furthest out and most taxi expensive. Plus, getting a DD back late afternoon is tough because drivers don't want to drive out there empty. On a 48-hour schedule, it might not yield enough return on investment.
Okay, trap 2, the ceramic shopping money pit. I'm telling myself, I'm just window shopping, I'm just looking. How dangerous is this mindset?
Incredibly dangerous. You are walking into an environment that has spent 1,000 years perfecting the art of making humans desire porcelain. The entire engine of the town is engineered to sell to you.
It's like an Apple store crossed with a high-end gallery spanning a whole city.
That's precisely it. The spectrum is overwhelming. From $2 market cups thrown by students to 4-figure museum-quality collector pieces replicating Qing Dynasty techniques, the emotional narrative pull is intense.
Suddenly you hand over your phone to scan a $300 purchase.
Travelers routinely spend far more than planned. Unbudgeted impulse spends of $100 to over $1,000 are common. And the initial price is only half the trap.
Right, the logistics of the physical object, international shipping for fragile ceramics.
Professional packing and shipping adds $50 to $200, plus the heartbreak risk of breakage in transit.
So what's the tactical fix? We can't tell people not to buy ceramics in the ceramics capital.
Set a hard and flexible numerical budget before you arrive. Write it down. And be educated about where you buy. Better value comes from young makers at weekend stall markets in Toxicena. Be wary of polished, overlit tourist shops downtown. They sell overpriced, mass-produced pieces, slip-casted in molds, as artisan work.
Look for slight imperfections proving the human hand was involved, and for shipping.
Use a professional packing service in the city. Do not wrap a $200 delicate vase in a dirty t-shirt and shove it in your checked suitcase. You'll be devastated. And honestly, if you have zero interest in buying or learning about ceramics, be brutally honest with yourself before booking. A huge portion of the city's value evaporates if you don't care about the craft.
Crucial psychological check. Now, trap 3 is language and payment friction, which we covered with the digital wall.
Right, lack of English signage and reliance on apps. Falling into this trap means missing connections, wrong data, high anxiety.
The fix is strict. Set up apps, link cards, download offline maps, save addresses in Chinese characters. If you don't have the technical appetite for this, don't make Jingdezhen your first stop. Start in Shanghai, get comfortable, then take the train inland.
Exactly. Arrive empowered, not panicked.
Okay, assuming we push through all that structural friction, what are the actual rewards? What experiences make it genuinely worth it?
When it works, it's magical. The standout highlight is experiencing the Toxicena district after dark.
The revamped brick factory buildings?
A staggering example of revitalized industrial architecture. Repurposed massive factory floors and smokestacks. At night, creative markets open, galleries glow, cafes buzz with young artists. Visually stunning, electric atmosphere, and wandering through it is completely free.
What about hands-on experiences?
The best value memory. Book a pottery throwing or porcelain painting session in Sanbao or Taxichuan, about $15 to $40 for a session. Sit at a wheel, get wet clay on your hands, learn directly from a local maker. You momentarily participate in the culture.
Incredible for families and the museums.
Imperial Kiln Museum is a non-negotiable must-see. Downtown, built directly over excavated ruins of old Ming and Qing kilns. Contemporary architecture by Studio Zupei is breathtaking. Massive sweeping brick vaults mimicking traditional kilns. Entry fee is just a few dollars.
And the Ancient Kiln and Folk Customs Park?
Different educational purpose. A bit more heavily packaged and touristy, but highly informative. Costs $8 to $12. Walk through forested grounds and see live demonstrations of historical techniques, from crushing raw kaolin rock to firing wood kilns.
But the sources say not everything is a highlight. We have to look at the illusions.
The biggest illusion is those glossy artisan shops downtown. Much of it is mass-produced in factories on the outskirts, heavily marked up for tourists.
You think it's unique, but it's a factory-line product with a premium tag.
Exactly. Another disappointment is museum fatigue. If you don't genuinely care about glazing chemistry or kiln temperatures, the museums get repetitive quickly.
And there's a point about social media versus reality. The auditors say the Instagram version of Taxichuan is like a beautiful movie set built inside a working, heavy industry factory.
Perfect analogy.
On social media, you see moody shots of red brick chimneys and clay hands, but that's a highly curated slice of a grittier pie.
The wider city is a working industrial town. Dust from factories, heavy traffic, constant concrete construction. If you expect the whole municipality to look like the pristine Taxichuan movie set, you'll be deeply disappointed driving through 30 minutes of gray apartment blocks.
Which brings us to physical safety. People hear gritty industrial city and equate it with street crime.
A fundamental misconception. The risk hierarchy regarding violent crime is incredibly low. The daily risks are nuisance rather than danger.
So no muggings.
Exceedingly rare. Small inland cities feel profoundly safe at night. For solo female travelers, it's frequently cited as comfortable and low hassle. No street harassment. Markets are heavily populated and well lit.
So what's the actual physical risk?
Traffic. Specifically, silent, omnipresent fleets of electric scooters and e-bikes.
The silent menace.
Yes. They move fast, don't strictly adhere to lanes or crosswalks, and you cannot hear them coming from behind. The greatest physical threat is failing to look all directions before stepping off a curb.
What about classic tourist scams?
Entirely commercial, not physically threatening. Overpriced, fake, antique porcelain. Tea house overcharges, though those are more common in Beijing or Shanghai. The bottom line verdict on comfort is that discomfort is entirely structural and logistical.
Friction of the system, not fear of crime.
Exactly. Frustrated you can't read a menu, not physically threatened in a dark alley.
But what if that structural friction, the digital wall, apps, heat, is too much work? Are there easier alternatives?
The sources provide two main alternatives, depending on what you're chasing.
Alternative 1.
Yeah.
Yixing in Jiangxi province.
China's other legendary ceramics town, famous for porous, purple clay Xisha teapots.
It scratches the same artisanal itch. But if it's much closer to easy-to-navigate Tier 1 cities like Shanghai, Suzhou, Nanjing, why drag yourself to Jiangxi province for Jingdezhen?
It's a matrix of convenience versus scale. You choose Yixing for convenience, a simple day trip or easy overnight from the Shanghai corridor, and it's hyper-specific to teaware.
But it lacks the scale.
Right. You choose Jingdezhen for overwhelming scale and historical depth. 1,000 unbroken years of imperial history, massive kilns, sprawling markets, avant-garde architecture. Yixing is an exquisite boutique. Jingdezhen is a sprawling department store of ceramics history.
Makes perfect sense. Alternative 2. Huangshan and Wuyuan, for someone already on that specific southern high-speed rail line.
Right, same railway corridor, completely different experience. Spectacular granite peaks and ancient pines in Huangshan, preserved ancient village architecture in Wuyuan.
What's the financial difference?
Huangshan is significantly more expensive. Mandatory mountain cable cars, speed park fees, premium summit hotels. Adds $50 to $150 a day compared to Jingdezhen. Wuyuan is cheap, about $20 to $30 for village tickets.
Why pick industrial sprawl over pristine mountain beauty besides cost?
3 reasons. 1, cheaper. 2, entirely weatherproof. Heavy rain ruins the view at Huangshan, but in Jingdezhen you just go inside the Imperial Kiln Museum. The weather doesn't stop the culture.
And the third reason, the geopolitical one.
The absolute trump card.
Yeah.
Jingdezhen is the only one of those 3 officially approved for the 240-hour visa-free transit via Nanchang Airport. If you fly in without a traditional visa, Jingdezhen is legally accessible in a way Hongshan might not be, depending on strict routing rules.
Which leads to the ultimate strategy. It's not an either-or choice. If you have time and the right visa, pair Jingdezhen as an intense 2 to 3 night cultural anchor on a loop with Huangshan and Wuyuan. It doesn't need to be a standalone week-long exhaust-yourself destination.
Treat it as a concentrated urban cultural immersion, then get back on the train and move to the mountains to decompress.
Okay, we have covered a truly massive amount of ground today. Meteorological calendars, digital walls, impulse buying psychology, sprawling geography. Let's recap the ultimate is it worth it verdicts based on everything we've unpacked.
For the backpacker, the verdict is a solid 8 out of 10. Absolutely worth it. Deep access to craft culture, incredibly cheap street food, highly safe, $60 a day goes incredibly far. The youth culture makes the logistical friction manageable.
For the mid-range traveler and digital nomad, a 7 out of 10. Worth it for a memorable 3-day stop or a month-long retreat, but conditional on arriving digitally prepared and disciplining your ceramics budget.
For families, the score drops to a 6 out of 10. Workshops are great for kids, but the constant dependence on hailing taxis across heavy traffic creates daily friction that burns out kids and parents.
And for the luxury seeker, a 4 out of 10. The ceiling is a very good local 4-star experience. If you need frictionless, global flagship pampering with English-speaking concierges, skip it and spend money in Shanghai. And honestly, it's a firm skip for anyone wanting an easy, walkable, European-style Old Town vacation.
To summarize the landscape, the 240-hour visa-free transit window, plus the 42-minute high-speed rail, makes right now the best time in modern history to visit Jingdezhen. The gates are open, but only to travelers willing to respect the inherent friction, understand the industrial layout, and prepare their digital tools.
You cannot just casually walk through the snow globe here. You have to take the time to learn how the machinery actually operates, which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you to mull over.
Ooh, I like where this is going. What's the takeaway?
We've spent the last hour talking about the friction, lack of English, scattered sites, payment apps just to buy noodles. But as rail networks expand and digital payments make these remote craft towns accessible to massive crowds, does that logistical friction actually serve a vital purpose? Think about Venice or Kyoto, struggling under frictionless over-tourism. Does the sheer difficulty of navigating Jingdezhen's sprawling layout actually act as a shield? Does it protect the town's authentic, gritty, working-class soul from being sanitized by mass tourism? Or is it just a temporary speed bump before it becomes completely commercialized?
That is a profound question. It's the defining question for the next decade of travel across Asia. As barriers fall, what happens to the soul of the destination?
It really is something to consider next time you hit a travel inconvenience. If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
Keep exploring.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.